Huh? Mm. r/let's not meet. Our first post comes from Gilded Masquerade, the white pickup truck. In April of last year, my boyfriend and I were walking home from our friend's house. I had just finished my first year at college, and we wanted to go out and celebrate and have some fun. We live in a rural town, and our friend lives on the far sides of it, so our walk is about half an hour or so. I had a drink or two and smoked some of the joint they had rolled. Smoking makes me paranoid, and this night was no different. Anyways, we left at maybe 10 or 11 p.m., and everything was perfectly normal until we got to the end of the long street that would eventually lead to my house. This street always felt so long to walk. Like hours can pass and you can barely make a dent in the amount of steps made. The street turned on to this road was maybe 10 blocks from my house. A few minutes after we turned to the road, I felt like something was off. But my boyfriend said that I was stoned and reminded me that I'm a pretty paranoid person to begin with. I really am. This white pickup truck that was parked in front of some house turns on and begins to drive slowly away and would then park. I watched to see if it was just me being paranoid or not, but it proceeded to stop a couple houses down and sat there with the car still on. As soon as we get close, it would drive away, parking a little further away. This continued until we got to the end of my street. At this point, I kept telling my boyfriend that I'm not paranoid and that truck was fucking following us. And went quiet. A couple houses down from mine, this truck drives to the end of the street. My house is on the corner. There's a dead end right by my house because we live near a river. It stops for a moment at the dead end and proceeds to turn on the high beams and begins to slowly drive toward us. My boyfriend sticks his arm out in front of me, stopping me from walking any further as the truck continues to approach. My house is so close, yet so far. This truck slowly drives by us. The windows are tinted, but we can see two silhouettes, and because they are blinding us, we didn't think it looked the license plate or even the model of the truck. I swear, I felt like that was the night I was going to die or worse. My thoughts hurled around in my mind, and I could see that my boyfriend was in the same mindset. My boyfriend, being pretty quick on his feet, waited until the truck disappeared from sight and took my hand before racing to my house and locked the doors. He had thought about turning down one of the other streets so we could try and lose them, but he figured he'd wait until they were out of sight to boogie to my house so they wouldn't see which house we went into. We looked out one of the front windows very carefully and saw this truck coming back into view and began to drive around the block, presumably looking for us. This went on for about 10 minutes. I called the police to inform them that we had followed, but without the license plate or model, they could only keep their eyes open for suspected white trucks. I was adamant that these people had to know one of us, if not me, because they drove until they were beside my house. Whether they actually knew it was my house or not, I don't know. My boyfriend tried to insist that it was probably a bunch of kids trying to mess with us, but I don't believe that. A few days later, we heard that someone was picked up and was last seen in the white truck. Since this night, there has been stories in the paper and online that people have been grabbing people, and these people have been trafficked in these areas. I'm still seeing reports every even day, but which prompted this unsettling memory. It makes me wonder if they were some of the people, and if they were they after both of us, or just one of us? Or were they truly just a bunch of assholes trying to mess with us? Either way, I don't care to know. Whenever I see a white truck, I become on edge. It may be silly, but the events of that night are still fresh in my mind. To the people in the white truck, let's never meet. Our next post comes from user Raul9753. Some woman stood in my flat right next to the shower curtain. This happened a few years ago in my old one-person flat. I had a strange feeling that something wasn't right for a few days, like I was sure that food in the fridge was less than I put back in the last time. I found pillows from my couch on the floor, stuff like that. I lived alone back then, so there wasn't anyone else with access to my flat, or so I thought. Well, one night I woke up around 1 a.m. in the morning, sweating, and even though I didn't remember, was sure I woke from a nightmare. Since I was drenched in sweat, I decided to take a shower. So I put my phone up in the bathroom for music, turned on the water, and enjoyed my shower. A few minutes in, I heard the door move. I never close it, but it still never moves. I took a look at the curtain shower and saw a shadow against it, and a look at my phone confirming that someone was there. Since I could clearly see a reflection in my screen that showed someone standing next to the shower curtain. It took me a lot not to scream and to keep acting like I didn't notice anything, while silently taking the shower head off and following and turning the water all the way to hot. I'm still kind of impressed that I could think this quickly. Our water got really hot when you cracked it all the way to hot. A few seconds later, streaming was raising, and the water hurt my feet, flowing to the drain. I turned around, ripped the shower curtain open, and held the shower head right at the person's behind. It was a woman. She was screaming in pain. I whacked her in the face with the shower head and jumped out of the shower and ran to the door. Taking the keys out of the lock and locking it closed behind me. A little later, she started to bang on the door, but the door didn't give. Thank God for German quality work. I called the cops and went to the kitchen to get my big kitchen knife, just for safety. I felt like my throat was closing up when I saw it missing and realized there was only one place where it could possibly be right now. The police came and arrested the woman, who turned out to be having been a former person living in this flat, and was evicted after not paying rent. Seemed she made a copy of the key and came into the flat when I was at work and sometimes at night. It's possible that what woke me up in the first place was her, and honestly, I don't even want to think about it. Ever since then, I always insisted the locks be changed when I move into a new place. Edit. Since a lot of people ask, I found the knife later in the bathroom, so she definitely brought it with her, and either the police disarmed her or she dropped it herself at any point. Our next post comes from user Lady M 1982. A night walk. I am female, almost 38 years old, and would like to tell you about an experience that I had with my dog at the same time. English is not my mother language, so I apologize in advance for any mistakes. It's been about 11 years. It was autumn and night, and I decided to take a little walk around my house estate with my dog Sunny. Sunny is a black and big Labrador mix. She's really good and cuddly, but she hates other female dogs. She also has a strong protective instinct and always snarls when she doesn't know or doesn't like someone or something. There were no street lights inside the settlement. The only light was always the house entrance. There was a small park with small playground between the rows of houses, but as already mentioned, everything was in complete darkness. That's why Sunny was not to be seen, only to be heard now and then when she was chasing a rabbit into the bushes. Then it goes without saying that she wasn't on a leash. I only need this when other female dogs are nearby. Sunny listens to my word and always comes when I call her. So, while I strolled comfortably through the dark settlement and froze my ass, Sunny ran happily through the area and the bushes. I always only guessed where she was because I could not see her, only heard from time to time. At some point, I noticed a small shadow that was whizzing around me. When I looked more closely, I could see Sunny. She ran in large circles around me and the place where I was, and I thought she was chasing something. But the circles she drew grew smaller and smaller. She didn't make any noise, and I went on comfortably because I thought she was having her 5 minutes. That's how it's said when someone is a little bit crazy. At some point, I didn't see her anymore, but I went on knowing she would follow. Then I heard a sound, footsteps, but they weren't my own. I was startled because they were close behind me, so suddenly I turned around but couldn't see anything, thanks to the darkness. I got nervous and called for Sunny because it could have been someone with a dog. Sunny didn't come, and I easily panicked. She suddenly stood in front of me, out of nowhere, and began to growl as violently as she had never done before. My blood froze because it couldn't be a good thing. And then she started walking straight ahead, growling about 2 or 3 meters. Stopped at that moment. I recognized a figure, completely in black. This person was shocked in front of Sunny and didn't move, and Sunny started barking like there was no tomorrow. The person slowly walked backwards toward the lighted house entrances. And then I saw Sunny, bare teeth, in front of a young man, wearing a hooded sweater, and probably started to experience the same fear as I did when I noticed him. Because as close as he had sneaked up on me, he couldn't have had any good intentions in mind. Since it was too dark, however, he could not see Sunny, and she must have surprised him at the right moment. Sunny started to jump at the moment, and the guy let out a scream and could hear something falling down from behind. He ran and my dog followed. After I had released myself from the shock stiffness, I called out Sunny as loud as I could, until after a short time, she was standing in front of me again. Wagging her tail, I took her on the leash and then went to where the guy had dropped something, and indeed, there was an arm-thick branch on the floor that he certainly didn't have with him to throw sticks. At home, it gradually dawned on me that my Sunny did not have her 5 minutes when she was circling me, but that she had long since noticed and kept an eye on this piece of shit to protect me. On the one hand, that was creepy, but also a relief. I was, and am still so grateful for this great dog, Sunny. Our final post from this evening comes from user Ayana Minelli. My lovely 3am visitor. This story isn't nearly as scary as some of the ones on here, but it's still pretty creepy. I live in a split-level house in a suburb. My house is on a bit of a hill and has a driveway leading up to it. My bedroom is on the basement, and because of the weird design of my house, my bedroom window, which is right above my bed, perfectly aligns with the walkway which is in front of my house. So, for example, when the mailman comes, I can see his feet and legs out of my window, but it's too close to the ground to see his face. I have blinds on my windows. I'm now 17, and this happened about 3 years ago. I typically go to bed extremely late, within the 3 to 4 a.m. range. One night, about 3 a.m., I was in the bathroom getting ready to go to sleep, when I walked back to my room and saw the shades of a pair of legs and what looked like to be a large boot on my blinds. Obviously, considering the time, I freaked out and just stood there, staring at the shadow. Whoever it was stayed for about 5 minutes, just standing there, then left. The next morning, I told my parents what I had seen, but they assured me that it was a safe neighborhood, and it was probably an animal or something. They didn't believe me, so I attempted to go to bed as usual the next night, around the same time. I heard the sound of footsteps outside my window, and jumped off my bed into the ground again. Again, the pair of legs just stood there for a few minutes. Just this time, whoever it was knocked on the window. I sprinted upstairs to tell my parents as they opened the front door. No one was there. They sent me back to bed, telling me that my mind was playing tricks on me because I was paranoid. I didn't really sleep that night. The same thing continued to happen for about a week. Every night at the same time, this person would come, stand there for a few minutes, knock a couple times, then leave. I never had the courage to open my blinds and actually look outside. On the 5th or 6th night, I begged my stepdad to stay up with me and wait until 3 a.m. so I could prove to him that it was happening. Of course, as these stories always go, the person didn't come that night. At the time, I wasn't sure how they knew my stepdad was with me. I figured out a few months later that when standing at the night angle, you could actually see straight through my blinds into my window. I'm guessing this is how they knew. Again, I was told it was just being paranoid, and that it was probably because I watched too many scary videos on YouTube. The next night, the person approached the window, and I hid behind my bed as usual. However, this time, the person crouched down so I could see the outline of their whole body. They put their hands up to the window and started violently banging. Then they started saying something, but I couldn't make out the words. I decided enough was enough, and I was going to call 911. I crawled back into my bed and grabbed my phone. Dialing the number, they sprinted away as soon as I started dialing the number. Again, now I understand they could actually see me through the blinds. Again, I ran upstairs to my parents, this time stopping and desperately begging for them to believe me. My stepdad took a bat and went outside. He came back with a scarf, which he had said was still warm, must have belonged to the person they had left accidentally. After that, I got new blinds and curtains. Never saw the person again, but I still occasionally look out my window around 3 a.m. to make sure no one's there. I have no idea whether they had bad intentions, if they were just trolling me or having fun, or if they were possibly on drugs, or had some sort of mental condition. I get pretty creeped out about things, about the fact that they could see me clearly through the blinds. It makes me wonder what they saw, if they ever saw me changing, or doing any other personal things. Creepy stuff. Either way, I'm glad I have never met them again.